Joanne Witt was a 47-year-old single mother living in El Dorado Hills, California, a quiet and affluent community nestled in the Sierra Nevada foothills. She worked as a civil engineer and was known to her colleagues and friends as a dedicated mother and a responsible professional. Her life revolved around her teenage daughter, Tyler Witt. But in the summer of 2009, Joanne's world would be torn apart by secrets, manipulation, and a horrifying betrayal from within her own home. Joanne had recently been struggling with her 14-year-old daughter's behavior. Tyler, once a straight A student, had become distant, defiant, and obsessed with a much older boy. That boy was 19-year-old Steve Culver. Despite their age difference and the fact that Tyler was a minor, the two had been dating for several months in secret. Joanne found out about the relationship when she came across Tyler's diary and read shocking details of their sexual activity. Alarmed, Joanne reported Stephen to law enforcement and filed a statutory rape complaint. The police did not arrest Stephen right away. He was told to stay away from Tyler while the case was under review. Joanne thought she was doing the right thing by trying to protect her daughter, but Tyler saw it as a betrayal. Joanne even allowed Stephen to temporarily live in their home, believing it might ease the tension and help her daughter move on. Instead, it only strengthened their bond. In early June 2009, Joanne told Tyler that she would be testifying against Stephen, and that he could be facing jail time. This news enraged Tyler, who had become infatuated with Stephen to a dangerous degree. She saw her mother as the obstacle keeping them apart. It was then that Tyler and Stephen began plotting something unthinkable. On June 11, 2009, Joanne Witt failed to show up for work. Concerned co-workers contacted the police. When officers arrived at her home, they found a disturbing scene. Joanne was lying dead in her bed. She had been stabbed over 20 times, and her throat had been slashed. Blood covered the bedding and walls. Investigators immediately suspected foul play, especially since Joanne's teenage daughter and Stephen Culver were missing. A manhunt began for the teenage couple, and they were found 2 days later in a hotel room in San Francisco. They had left a suicide note and taken a large amount of Tylenol, apparently trying to end their lives. Both survived and were taken into custody. Under questioning, their carefully crafted story began to unravel. Stephen initially claimed that he had nothing to do with Joanne's death. He said that Tyler had killed her mother while he was asleep. Tyler, on the other hand, blamed Stephen. Eventually, it became clear that the murder had been a joint plan. Tyler admitted they had talked for days about killing Joanne to prevent her from testifying. They wanted to remove what they saw as the only barrier to their relationship. The plan was to kill Joanne, flee to Oregon, and then die together in a suicide pact. Tyler confessed to drugging her mother's milkshake with sleeping pills on the night of the murder. Once Joanne was unconscious, Stephen went into her bedroom and stabbed her repeatedly. Tyler later said that she was in the room when it happened and that she saw Stephen slash her mother's throat. Because Tyler was only 14 at the time of the murder, prosecutors faced a difficult decision. After much deliberation, they charged her as a juvenile. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to serve 15 years to life. Due to her age and cooperation with prosecutors, she was not tried as an adult. Stephen Culver, who was 19 at the time of the crime, was charged with first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty and went to trial. Prosecutors argued that he was the one who carried out the killing and that the act had been premeditated. They introduced evidence of the couple's planning, including the suicide note, text messages, and Tyler's diary entries. The defense tried to paint Stephen as a naive young man manipulated by a troubled girl. In 2011, the jury found Stephen Culver guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The murder of Joanne Witt shocked the community and served as a tragic example of how obsession, manipulation, and emotional immaturity can spiral into irreversible violence. Joanne's life was taken by the very person she tried to protect, making the betrayal all the more devastating.